want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Hello, this is Jesse James Carver, host of the Unblocked Creators. You are now listening to the episode number 14 with special guest Matt Buffa. He is a musician, a sound engineer, and a writer, among other things, and is also my friend. We've met through our publishing of our online writings, through X and Substack, and we became friends by getting on calls and participating in creative projects together. Actually, Matt happens to be the person who created the music you just heard in the intro to this podcast and the last several episodes. So, thank you very much, Mr. Matt Buffa, for creating the intro music to my podcast. And now, this episode starts off a little bit abruptly because we hit record partway into a conversation that was just already started, and we weren't necessarily totally sure if we were going to publish this episode because we both felt kind of under the weather, I think, a little unprepared, and felt a weird sort of pressure. It's funny because I've done episodes with people who I kind of look up to or who have a big audience, and I haven't felt that nervous. But it was just an early morning. I felt unprepared, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be underprepared for this episode just because Matt's my friend, and then it feels like I don't care to be prepared. So I was feeling kind of flustered about that, but I think we had a good conversation. I enjoyed it. It was a good time, and actually, I think that the topics that we discussed around basically finding creative freedom by letting go, I guess, finding your way out of perfectionism. I think that's what we sort of talked about. We talked about a lot of things, but I hope you enjoy it. And also, sponsor plug, because this is my podcast. I run it how I want, and I don't have a sponsor. Go check out oakmoss.ca to see really cool wood art. I make some nifty stuff, I think, in my opinion. And go to thelivinginternet.com to find out what's happening at the frontier of the creator economy in 2026, in person in Vancouver, British Columbia. People are flying in from all over the world for a very interesting event called the Creator Economy Convention, and I happen to be one of the primary organizers of this event, so I'm going to speak about it. I'm going to plug it. I'm going to tell you should be there. But honestly, with the speaker lineup we have, like Dan Coe, Hussein Ibarra, Kieran Drew, Talon Simmons, Jack Moses, Dan Goldfield, Brian Meyerhofer. By the way, the last couple of episodes have been with speakers at the convention. Not the last one. Josh Terry isn't booked as a speaker, but the previous two, episodes 10 and 11. That's Brian Meyerhofer and Dan Goldfield. You can listen to the episodes with some of the speakers at the convention, and you can click the link in the description of the episode to join our free community, the Living Internet Alliance, on Circle, where we're going to be going on all kinds of quests together and helping you build mastermind alliances with other creators who are looking to find their way and find more freedom to carve a path that works for them. And I, the Unblocked Carver, am now going to present this conversation with Matt Buffa. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the outro. You had this realization while you were coming up with ideas for writing, or like some situation brought it up, or what?
Oh yeah, so I had a situation where I was talking to my mentor, and she says, "You're taking it you're taking everything too seriously. Even your spirituality, you're taking it too seriously." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm taking it too seriously?" And I was like, yeah, I am actually taking it too seriously because I was pushing too hard on everything that I was doing. It's you have to meditate, and then you have to solve this problem, and then it just never stops. It's always this podcast, this book, this new guru. Find yourself a new guru, and it just never stops. And you're on this hamster wheel of just consuming new stuff, and you're just like, oh, give me more. I need to know more. But I was just like, okay, I'm gonna chill out a bit. I listened to "Letting Go" by David Hawkins, and that was like it clicked. I was like, okay, it's not about trying more, doing more, being more. It's about letting go of the old stuff that's keeping you stuck, that's keeping you in this loop of this vicious cycle of always being on a hamster wheel. The whole book is basically just let go, man.
Yeah, I listened to some of that one, and it was a compelling beginning. I didn't make it all the way through it, but yeah, letting go. Letting go is a big one. There's layers and layers of it, of like feeling like you've let go in certain respects, and then you're pursuing control on these other layers.
It never stops. Like the ego always finds a way to trip you up, always.
I guess in some sense, it's like we believe we're responsible for our existence in some fundamental way. But when we also just trust the process of being what we are, it seems like we're able to be more responsible anyways, rather than when we're tripping on our own, on the weight of our need to control. We have to make decisions, and we're very anxious about making the right ones. And so it's, can I take the full load and be this perfected being and make all my habits perfect? And there's a reason to have this drive towards self-improvement, right?
Yeah.
And yet it can become this problem. The perpetual need to solve the problem becomes its own problem.
Yeah, and this is the thing. We don't think about why we want to improve. Like, who told us that we need to improve? You get me? Like, where did we internalize that we're fundamentally flawed or broken or bad, that we need to fix ourselves?
Yeah.
That's the question we should be asking. And so I'm writing the newsletter, and I came to realize a lot of it is just guilt and shame that we internalized.
Yeah.
We have a lot of shoulds. I should do this, I should do that, I should meditate more, I should forgive my mother, I should call my mother, I should insert your own thing, but it's always a should. You should do something, because you're not good as you are. So you should do something to fix it.
Yeah. Should or else what? It's should or else. And I think that's the thing. There's like this deep unconscious fear that we have behind the or else. And it's or else you're not worthy of feeling okay or worthy of being loved, or what is it that we're so in need of but helpless to get, unless we're, yeah, in that loop you speak of.
Yeah, it all comes back to love. If I do this, I will be worthy of love.
Yeah.
I will prove that I can be loved.
Yeah, so then is the answer to that when people talk about self-love, learning how to love yourself, is that basically the answer to letting go? Or how do you let go of that, yeah, that neurosis of trying to always improve?
Yeah, I'd say it's forgiveness. And forgiveness is the basis of self love. So, why do we take something seriously? Because we get attached to it, we
Man,
make it a part of our identity. And so, if someone attacks it, to protect it. And then, so you get me.
I think so.
What was I saying? Hold on. I was trying to tie it in.
Yeah.
Um,
Why do we take it seriously?
Hold on. Sorry, what did you say before I started yapping?
I don't know. I also lost our I when I was talking, I like lost the train a little bit too, but being worthy of love, being worthy of, I don't know, being able to rest and let go. What's it what is it that keeps us from letting go? And then you talked about forgiveness and as opposed to shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And okay, my brain started spinning this other track, so I don't want to.
Should we? Yeah, okay, let's pause.
Yeah, yeah.
Breathe in, breathe out. This is the thing with it's in music we call it the red button syndrome, the red light syndrome. Once
Okay.
you start recording, you're just like, oh my god, I have to perform. And you just come
Yeah, yeah, I
on.
know, but I love it because it's like we're on this topic. Like you're telling me about this letting go topic, and I feel it in presenting for the camera as opposed to just interacting with my pal Matt.
Yeah.
And but I felt like this episode would be an opportunity to exercise this because there's only a couple episodes I've done with people who I'm closer to. It's more so, oh, someone who's known for such and such a little bit, or I've there's like my first episode with my friend Andrew. We opened the episode with me trying to be all serious, and then I stopped and go, "Oh man, this is so awkward. Hold on, we got to restart. We got to restart." And then Andrew's, "Hold on, I think you should keep that in. I think that's a good start. You should actually just let it
Yeah.
in." And I
Yeah.
really liked that because it was like right in the moment he gave me this choice: let go or obsess over getting started properly.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I surrender. So we just kept going. And you and I can reflect on this later and decide what do we include in this. But I actually think we're getting at something really cool here because I'm trying to figure out how to maintain that balance with doing this podcast. And the reality is, I'm actually just this human guy who's like stumbling around, stressing about things in my day to day life, trying to figure things out and figure out my life. And then I get on this podcast and I just ask questions. And I'm trying not to act too much like I know something, or I'm just on a quest to figure things out. And I think I can draw forth some interesting things by asking people questions.
Yeah, but we have even I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so official.
Yeah.
If it was just like we scheduled a call, I'd be like, oh my god, I'm gonna talk to
We're
Jesse. It's gonna be so awesome. We're gonna
just
talk
going
about a
to catch
bunch of
up.
cool stuff. It's
Yeah.
like I have to look smart. I have to say the right thing. I have to prove myself that I'm not a dumbass.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just
yeah.
you get so self conscious about it.
Yeah, but then what's the result if I take that obsession to its extreme? I try to have a perfect list of questions and then a perfect list of like non-question in between topics to bridge together and how to stitch together this work of art of a conversation. And it's like, how is a conversation really going to be a work of art though? It's when there's two people who are present for it, right?
Yes.
While it's happening. So it's like there is this aspect of this brilliant thing that comes through when you're just surrendered with somebody and not on when you haven't hit record.
Yeah. Because you don't think about yourself that much when you're just talking to a friend. You're focused on your friend and you're creating this third thing. That's the conversation. Like telepathically connected, and you're just creating this third entity, and it's just you get lost in it.
Yeah.
So then when you hit record, you're like, okay, I gotta straighten myself out.
Oh man. Yeah. For the few minutes before. Oh, let me tell you though, I had this vision come to me in the while I was scrambling to set up my scene here because it was way messier than it looks before you now. And I was scrambling, and then I had to get the microphone hooked up, and I had to make myself a cup of tea, and I wanted to be on time, of course. And I ended up being like 2 minutes late, but that was great because you were still getting set up too. So I got to sit here and take some breaths to calm myself down. But while I was scrambling, I had this vision come to mind of the intro to the podcast, doing like an intro that was unorthodox, a little unordinary, where it actually shows me like doing some things to scramble to get ready and running around and trying to multitask, making some tea and getting my mic set up and getting my scene all put together to show up, and then to have it have some kind of punchline where it's like a 20 or 30-second long scene, and then there's like this kind of punchline to the absurdity of how much I was scrambling. But I don't know how to package that up nicely, or if I'll.
We scrambled this conversation in the beginning. I was like, okay, let's make it proper. Let's make this proper. Let's talk. The punchline is that we both caught ourselves in that mode.
Yeah.
It's we're This is very meta. This is very meta.
Yeah, there's too many layers. Too
There's
many
too many
layers of
layers.
self-consciousness.
Because
Oh man.
I'm talking about letting go while holding on to tightness, where we're talking about this, and we're all trying to be proper. It's just
Yeah.
there's too many layers here.
Oh
Oh
man.
man.
That's partly like part of the challenge for me in this being my podcast. It's supposed to be valuable to people. I'm supposed to present some value, which has to be entertaining or educational or interesting in some way. And God forbid we go a minute without being super interesting or entertaining or educational. We might waste
Yeah.
one whole minute of somebody's precious life after they decided to hit play, and we might not deserve that minute of their time. I don't
Oh
know.
man,
It's
it's so funny because what we basically did is we showed people that we're human, and that's I feel like that connects with people more than being the perfect version of you
yeah,
presented as like a talking head, and you're like,
yeah. I want to
what would you
present that balance.
broadcasting to the world your perfect self.
Yeah, right now, we both said before this call we weren't at our best. I said to you, my brain is far from peak performance right now, but we'll see how it goes. And you said same thing.
Yeah, it's 8:30 p.m. For me. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
I've had a whole day of just like thinking and running around and just,
Hey, maybe we should fill in because probably now we are actually being listened to by people listening to an episode. I think that what we're recording now might actually go in, but in that case, let's let people know how the heck we know each other and where you are in the world and where I am and what's what led to this.
oh yeah. So Basically, the Cortex community,
Yeah.
Dan's Cortex community. I saw you there, and then over to X. We started following each other, and we're like, "Hi." I was like, "This guy is cool," and then you were like, "You're cool too," and
Yeah.
that's how it started.
Yeah, I just was noticing the things you were writing, and I'm like, I like the way you're approaching sharing these thoughts, and resonated with some insights. And yeah, I had a good feeling about the attitude that this guy seems to have. And so I sent you some messages, I think, and just started liking your posts.
Yeah, we just started chatting, and I've been following your. You were sharing your journey, your like 3 months of travel in the Discord community. I'm like, this guy is cool.
Yeah,
It was
I was
mutual.
on quite an adventure during that time. It was funny because I started taking it seriously to start my newsletter back in August last year, and Dan inspired me to do that. I had been writing for years in different contexts and done some interviews, and but it struck me differently the way he described why it's useful to write a newsletter and how that helps you to pivot to other things as you grow your own audience and can move your own email list as you please. And so I started that, and then for 3 months was on that crazy desert adventure where it was pretty tricky to find a lot of consistent routines to work on writing and build something. I had that vision of starting a newsletter and then launching some kind of digital product or something. But then I was like living on a date farm and living on a fruit orchard in Arizona and finding places to camp on mountains and riding a cheap bicycle around. So it was a strange like juxtaposition where I was like still really engaged with this online community and still working on my writing with it in mind that this was working towards some business endeavors. Maybe I was launching my web design course during that time. I ran test rounds of it. And then, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it was really once I came home and started thinking of my next chapter that you and I started becoming friends.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So the juxtaposition with traveling and also engaging online. How do you find that? Because I find it very difficult. I find either I'm online or I'm out in the world and I'm traveling. And it's I see
Yeah.
these guys who are in Bali and Thailand and they're doing both, but it feels like it's two different worlds to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I was having fun with my writing and I wasn't really running any in-depth programs or anything. I ran my web design course a couple times, and that was challenging when I didn't have a lot of control over the spaces I was in or the schedule I had or like the Wi-Fi connection or but it was okay. I had somewhat stable bases on that trip where I would be in one place for a fair amount of time, a couple of times. And then couch surfing, I was able to have good spots to run calls. But I feel like you really have to systematize it more and be able to enjoy the leisure. Like, I couldn't be traveling in Thailand and making sure I'm writing online every day and making sure I'm doing all the different levels of networking that you have to do to run a business operation. I feel like I'd want to have those systems pretty well built when I'm like hunkered down at home so
Right.
that once a week I have a system for turning my long form content into short scheduled posts, spend 2 hours on that once a week, and then actually schedule them all in X. And I'm not sure if you can schedule on Substack.
I think so.
Just systematize, create
Mm-hmm.
automations. And I'm learning to just have more of those kinds of operations in life in general. It's like meal prepping, right?
Yeah.
It just allows you to take it easy a lot more of the time and not be like rushing to do all these things one step at a time. And I think people who are they're actually running like 6-figure or 7-figure online businesses. Yeah, I think that they get pretty good at systematizing, and then every once in a while they'll hop on an hour or 2 hour call to run something, but mostly it's like they have their little time windows to work on the strategic parts and then schedule different stages of a launch and then
Yeah.
run the thing with deep focused strategy time and preparation time. And a lot of them will outsource a lot of things. So it's a Tim Ferriss style operation, I think, that lets people
Yeah.
travel that way.
Yeah. This is a good segue to like habits, creative habits. So a lot of the time, business and art are separate, or we think of them as separate. But if you think about it, all of the things you're talking about, having habits, having like systems in place to get your work done, we somehow internalize that artists are somehow different and they work on spontaneity, they work on motivation and inspiration. But if you look at like daily rituals of highly successful artists, they had systems in place, they had habits that allowed the art to be inevitable. If you look at Hemingway, for example, he would wake up every day at 6 a.m., walk up to his little cabin where he would write, and he'd write every day until 11 or 12, every day.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of this. So it's like having those habits is extremely useful.
Yeah. I always find that to be the case. And then I always find that I find some way to topple them over and disrupt them again. Like I'll find those good
Right.
routines. I'll find that groove for a while. And then, yeah, I have like creative revolutions in thought. There's those 2 to 4 hour deep focused work sessions. And then there's all the other habits that lead to like actually productive leisure time, not just like watching shows and but going and meditating in the sauna or whatever, going on walks, where it's like that other mode of consciousness is still serving those 2 to 4 hour work blocks. And
Right.
that's when I find the revolutions in thinking come, that they level the whole system up instead of just working really hard on completing something at the level I was imagining it to work at. So there's a lot of creative projects for me where it's like when I've stepped away from it a little bit and my general life habits are just doing better. I wake up at a good hour, I have a good breakfast, and so on, get outside. Then when it comes time to work on the project, generally there's been like a whole shift in how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
There's less resistance to working on it, and there's a better way of working on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think people realize that it's different to work on something every day for an hour and working on something for 7 hours straight. People wanna bang workout, like bang things out in a couple of hours, call it done. But they don't realize that if you take those breaks, your subconscious works on it. When you wake up the next day, you're a different person. You're collaborating with yourself because you have a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we can apply this to you because you're struggling to write this newsletter
Oh my God, yes.
and you've put a lot of thought into it and you've written different parts of it and then you've changed it. So maybe you need more strict constraints to force the creative completion.
Yeah, I think I need a deadline. That's what I need. So the problem with writing is that when you start writing, you think that when you learn something, you think that you have a pretty good idea of how it goes. But then you start writing about it and you're like, "Oh, I have no idea at all." This is my problem. I think that my newsletter, oh, this is flowing perfectly. It's great. I have all these great ideas. And then when I come back to it the next day, I'm like, oh, this is sloppy. This is sloppy thinking here, here, and here. This section doesn't flow well. This is just complete mess. It's just, and then I get into my head. I'm like, oh my God, okay, this needs more work.
Yeah.
And then the next day, and the cycle repeats.
Have you let anyone else read it?
No, only I AI checked it.
Yeah, yeah. As scary as it is, I would offer up if you gave yourself a rough draft, a first draft, not rough, but first draft deadline, and let me read it, I might be able to help
All
poke
right,
those final holes
all
for kind
right,
of your final revision.
all right. I'm
And
very
then
I'm
you give
very
yourself
close to it, so I'll send it to you in the next couple of days.
sweet. Okay. Because
Nice.
honestly, I miss the days when I used to hand in my essays and creative nonfiction writing pieces to a professor who was a writing mentor of mine, Trevor Caroline, who's written a bunch of books and studied and met a bunch of great writers. And he would have really good insights on either the way that I was wording something or the order that an idea was expressed in, or that ideas were ordered. And yeah, it's just, it can really help to have someone who's, they're not going to pick it apart because they're going to see like what you're, they're going to see all the cool stuff that looks great that you start to take for granted and start to get self-critical of because it gets mixed that doesn't seem great. But like you start throwing out, if I feel like when you just keep editing something over and over, or like you're really trying to get it to perfection, like I'll look back on newsletters I put out 6 or 12 months ago, and I'll read it on one level and I'll go, oh, this is crap. This is unnecessarily repetitive. This is confusing. This is poorly worded. This is wrongly worded. And I'll start tearing it apart like that and think, oh man, like I could make this way better if I
Yeah,
spent however much more time on it. But insert theoretically infinite amount of time. And in hindsight, though, I can also read it and try to read it through the lens of someone who doesn't know me or they've just read stuff from me on the internet, like they don't really know me. And there's a couple of things I've written where I go, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I see how someone else might still notice some of
yeah,
those things. Oh, this was poorly worded, or that was a bit confusing, or whatever. But they'll see the overarching thing, they'll see certain ideas I was pointing at, and they'll
yeah,
think, oh, this guy is thinking some cool stuff. And oh, that part was insightful. Glad I read it. But then, and
yeah, yeah,
they hang on to the good stuff.
yeah. That's the thing. Like, people don't pay as much attention to your stuff as you do. You're the only person
No,
who pays that much attention.
yeah. Yeah, no one cares that much.
Yeah, but we think everyone looks at our stuff with a super critical eye.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, this sentence is poorly written. This guy is definitely dumb.
Yeah.
No one does that.
No, and if one day you wrote something that was considered a work of genius, right? Maybe you publish a book in your 40s that is like really an incredible accomplishment. Still, most people, like 99% of people who read that, they're not going to investigate this person so deeply that they find the stuff that you wrote now and think, and even if they did, they would think all that it would do is have them think, oh wow, so you can go from this cool, interesting level to this super high level,
Yeah.
right? Like even then, no one's looking back on it. No one's gonna. I don't know. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. It just doesn't matter. Just why do we do anything?
Oh yeah. No, see, I can say that, and then yeah, it's still, but it matters to me, so I'm gonna
Yes.
write the thing. I'm still gonna write the thing, and it is gonna matter to some people to some degree. So I want it to be really good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
legit. Like you still want that.
You want that one person that reads it and goes, "This guy is a genius."
Yeah, exactly. Because you know that there's some kind of genius in you, I think. I think when you have that kind of perfectionism to bring something to its completion, to bring something to polished completion because you feel there's something in you that's worth bringing to that point. And I think that's your genius. Like you have that impulse to know that there's something that's worth bringing to that level of beauty.
Yeah.
So you want it to get there at some point.
Yeah. It's you can go, "Why do you care so much?" No one's gonna care that much, but you go, "But I care."
Yeah.
That's what matters.
One thing that comes to mind right now is the value of super rough drafts. Like just allowing completion at the rough level where no one even has to see it. Like just doing a lot of writing, right? Doing a lot of writing that doesn't really matter. Like literally doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Writing poetry or just being silly with words at times. I think that's a cool exercise to disassociate from the seriousness of it, but then
For sure.
expand the ability to so that when you're being serious about it, you do so even more skillfully because of that time in play, allowing yourself to just play. So I'm working on a thing now that I'm struggling with because I want it to be genius. But since the start of my writing, my newsletter was called the Unblocked Carver. And no, it was Taoist threads. You caught me back when it was Taoist threads for a bit.
I still think that's a really cool name.
Thank you. I'll use it for something.
Please.
Yeah, I'm going to use it for something. But I'm holding this block of yellow cedar in my hand because I've been thinking, first off, I want to do another iteration of some kind of group process, learning transformation process. So like we did the creative Wayfinder together. You participated when I ran this wild group creative initiation, and we did some shadow work, and we drew from other work you're familiar with, like the artist's way. And so I ran the creative Wayfinder. I've been writing the Unblocked Carver, and my first digital product before the creative Wayfinder, I tried running the web design course, and it wasn't a failure. I didn't take it very far because I didn't care enough to get over the complicatedness of teaching that online to individuals and
Mm.
groups of individuals. I didn't really get to the stage of doing groups of individuals. But I like web design as a fun thing to tinker with here and there, and coding, but I don't care that deeply. So that kind of flopped, but the creative Wayfinder I considered a success. It's not like I made a tremendous amount of money or anything, but it was a success because I think everyone enjoyed it, and there were some people who got some cool results. And
Yeah, it
in
was amazing.
general,
Yeah.
thank you. There we go. So there's a great testimony right there. But I didn't really want to do it again either for some reason. I wanted to do something like it, but I wanted to take it a step further in some way. And now you know about some of the other things I'm working on right now, but maybe we'll get to that. But this idea I'm working on it's a similar course, but condensed into 4 weeks. That was 8 weeks long. I'm thinking condensed into 4 weeks, and live calls would maybe be like a stage 2, like group calls. But right now I want to record a set of videos where, first off, I'm talking about similar ideas like Jungian individuation, and the reason this comes to mind right now is we're on this wave about perfectionism and completion, getting projects done, getting out of your way creatively and being able to create things.
Right.
And so the Unblocked Carver describes nicely the process. There's a story in that name, right? It's the carver who was blocked and now isn't.
Yeah.
Now, there's so much cool metaphor because there's the uncarved block metaphor with the Zen and Taoist idea of this uncarved block of potential. And then here's an actual block of wood. And then you got the Stoic mindset of the obstacle is the way. So, like, within the block is the key or something rather. Or there's the Jungian shadow stuff about looking where you least want to look to find what you most need. But the block, I can go on to so many metaphorical teachings while I'm carving this into something. And the start would be, I don't even know what I'm going to carve yet. So I can start with a pencil and I'll draw a circle. No, I don't want it to be circular. Let's draw some more circles in different spots. I don't know. What does this thing want to become? I can erase that and just draw some lines. I can just start thinking and looking at this piece of wood and thinking from the side view maybe, what could this be? Do I want to do a mask of some kind? It's a little small for a mask, but it could be a mask. That's fun, actually. I hadn't thought of that yet until this very moment. So then just start with a brainstorm and then drawing on it, and then you start roughing it out with carving tools. And you get it a little toward that first drawing that you did on it, and then your pencil lines are all gone because you've carved them away. And then you stop and you think, okay, what do I really want this to look like? And before you've carved deep into it and carved the details, you draw on it again and you start sketching. And it's just temporary possibilities that you're sketching on it. And then you can erase those or you can redraw them. So I'll do this whole process where I'm filming these videos, and my hope is that I can condense them into 5 to 10 minute videos where I get very clear on a particular topic. And one of them would be like the way that a sharp knife can slice easily along the grain of the wood. If you slice thin shavings, it's really quite easy. But if I was to try to chop across the grain or against the grain, suddenly there's a lot of resistance. And see, there'll be things about what does going with the Tao really mean in terms of life and
Right.
creativity. So,
Okay.
anyways, there that's the idea I'm working on. And I'm facing the very same resistance, but it feels like it's the perfect block of metaphors so that when I just start, I'll probably be able to mostly improvise those videos and then just edit them to shorten them down so that a series of about 10 videos for modules of a course will bring this block from block to something beautiful and finished.
Great. Okay, so you want to teach your philosophy, your creative philosophy, through the process of carving this block.
That's correct. Exactly.
That's a cool
Yeah.
idea. That's cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's cool. Lovely.
So one of the ideas that came to mind for that series of videos was the topic of sharpening your axe. I think it was an Abraham Lincoln quote that kind of popularized it. The idea that someone said, I think it was him who said, if he had to chop down a tree and he had 5 hours to do it, he would spend the first 4 hours sharpening his axe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
So, yeah, commonly used concept to talk about a variety of things, but what would come to mind for you first? What does that mean? in terms of other than chopping down trees?
Mm. See, depends what we're talking about. Because you could be sharpening the axe to avoid the work. You could be sharpening the axe not for 4 hours, you could be doing it for 6 hours, for 8 hours, just so you don't have to get to the dirty work of chopping the wood, chopping the tree.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
So that's my first thought, because in my experience, so I've experienced a lot of this kind of thing where the techniques or learning techniques would be an excuse to not start the work. So, for example, we were talking about writing. A version of that would be, I need to study the masters first before I can write a first sentence.
Wow. This
But
is
if you
very
look at,
interesting.
but if you look at how kids do anything, how kids create,
Yeah.
they start first, and then they do their shitty drafts,
Yeah.
and they improve on that.
Bro, this is profound right now because I'm having so much resistance to starting this series of videos. And the first step will just be getting on camera, talking about drawing on your block of wood. Or maybe the first one will be about sharpening your tools. And I'll be sitting there sharpening the tools. And I'm not starting because it's, oh, I need to be in the right location at the right time, in the right headspace, and get a camera set up with a nice shot and make it all done right.
Yes.
And you're never going to have it done right. You're just going to get better and better if you start.
Yeah. And if you don't start, you're going to get better at avoiding the work.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
get into this cycle of finding something new that you can learn, a new technique, or you can find a new tool to sharpen, but you never actually start. But you keep yourself in this vicious cycle. This has been a big theme in my life, where I would learn all these techniques and then never do anything with them.
yeah,
And Dan Coe says the best way to learn is to start the project and iterate. And it's common sense, right? It makes sense, but we make it harder for ourselves
yeah.
just because we're afraid to start the work, to suck at the thing that we want to do.
That's exactly it.
We're afraid of sucking. That's you basically, all the resistance, all procrastination could be boiled down to you're afraid to suck.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You have to be willing to suck.
yeah,
You got to be willing to be a fool. Yeah, that's a hard one. Like with this podcast, with writing on the internet, with sharing my carving process on camera and trying to make it some profound metaphor and articulate it perfectly. I just have to accept that I'm just going to do it from my current skill level. Like everything I do, I'm just going to do from my current skill level. And if I'm trying so hard to do it beyond that, then I'm stifling my energy in a way that means I don't even match my actual level
yes.
potential. I'm doing less than that.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it is the fear of how it's going to be perceived, how our work is going to be perceived. When you do something for yourself, we're talking about the conversation. Oh, when we're just chatting, it just flows naturally. But once we hit the record button, then all
Yeah.
of a sudden the stakes are high, and we're all nervous and we're barely breathing, and it's just, you have to be smart about this. The whole world is going to see us. But when we make something just for ourselves, it all flows naturally.
Yeah.
So it's this weird thing where I do understand what you're saying with you want to get to a certain level. You want to be at a certain level. But by pushing and striving to be that level, you're stifling your energy, as you said, because you have two targets. I love, one of my favorite Anthony DeMello quotes, he talks about when an archer shoots for fun, he has all his skills. When he shoots for a brass buckle, his knees start to tremble. When he starts to shoot, when he's shooting for a golden prize, then his aim is off and he doesn't hit the target. So he has two targets. He has the target in front of him, and he also has the target of winning. And this divides his energy into
Wow.
two different. His focus is split, you could say.
Yeah. That's incredible. The target of winning.
And then you have two targets, and when
Yeah.
we hit the record button, the aim is to have a good conversation, but also we want to look good and we want to provide value and we want to this and that, and
Yeah. Interesting.
we get too self-conscious. And if you think about it, a lot of our human activities are to forget oneself. We get lost in conversation. It's in the language. We in conversation. When you're reading something good, you get lost in the book.
Yeah, apparently flow states involve a lack of self-consciousness.
Yeah. That's why it's so enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange. Like time slows down or speeds up, but I find it's yeah, you get lost in such a way where like time seems to fly by, but at the same time you're so involved that like time doesn't feel fat. It's in the moment you're experiencing so much and so much
Yeah.
enjoyment. Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of nostalgia for that ease of going into that as a child. I think I spent a lot of time like just playing with creativity when I was young. And I still do, but there's a lot more like stress about adult responsibilities for one thing.
Yeah, there's stakes. There's stakes.
Yeah, high stakes. The plot has thickened, and yeah, we're past certain checkpoints that where there's not a lot more checkpoints. We're just now in the risky territory.
The thing is, kids can create freely because they don't have any responsibility. They don't think about achieving anything. They don't think about being a successful artist. They just think about creating. And then as we grow up, we develop egos, we get wounded in certain ways, and then we have all these different thoughts that are intruding this creative process, this free creative process. But I'd
Yeah,
say if you can overcome those doubts, those thoughts that are blocking you, you're further in the development of consciousness.
yeah,
It's all the spiritual teachers, they talk about, oh, look at how kids are. Learn from the kids. They're so free because they don't have an ego. But the ego is a developmental tool we needed. It's there
yeah,
for a reason, right? there has to be some sort of tool so we can take care of ourselves and not get eaten by tigers and bears. So the ego is useful, but then learning to integrate the ego is a higher achievement than being just a kid without an ego. You talk about this a lot, where people want to achieve this no ego state, but you're saying it's better to integrate your ego and tame it and
I think
parent
so.
it to serve you. And I say it ties back to creativity, where by having those challenges, you're better off when you beat the challenges. Are you following me? Like I kind of get lost.
Yeah. There's a lot to tie together there, but yeah, it's a funny thing because the freedom of that sort of almost lack of self-consciousness of a child it's like it's something worth returning to in a sense, but through I would say it seems to me that the individuation sort of process that Jung described, it's not about it's about the development of the self, right? Towards like the capital S self.
Oh,
And oh,
sorry.
nice.
Okay, hold
Woo!
on. This is a.
That's a fun change. All right.
I forgot. So I have this programmed. To.
Oh,
I'm on my. Hold on.
we're going into the regress. The, oh, oh
Ah!
man.
I forgot about that. That's my evening. That's my bedtime signal.
Oh, nice. That's great. Having that on a timer is a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. This way that this way that the self is integrated with a larger ecology, including the collective unconscious and all of these forces of the unconscious that are eons old. It's like the integration of all of that into something more conscious, like allowing the
Yeah.
consciousness to apprehend and balance a bunch of these supposedly conflicting forces of the deep unconscious and of the world. Like we live in a world full of contradiction in a sense. And
Yeah.
so
And
to be
yeah.
able to hold that in our consciousness at a larger scale, that I think is more like the development of the ego into something that
Yes.
can hold more and see past its edges more cohesively. So it's, you can become further and further aware of how transient the contents of your ego are, and then how essentially illusory your ego actually is. But it's not that it has no substance or it doesn't exist. It's like
Right.
what it thinks it is at any stage isn't quite true. But it has a nature. It has a the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So it's not like an atom of a molecule, right? It's more like a molecule to an atom. It's a happening, and it's this self-reflective happening
Yeah.
that gets latched onto like paradigms of identity. But it can reach past that. It can reach past its own boundaries, or awareness can be shed on it at the edges, right? And then it can grow or develop. Not necessarily grow might be the wrong word, because it might be still, in fact, shrinking or becoming less substantial as it develops.
Yeah. It gets paradoxical.
Yeah.
It gets paradoxical because when you look at, oh, was it Osho? He was this great spiritual teacher, but he had Rolls Royces and cribs and all these.
Yeah.
And then the guy was like free of guilt, or at least it seems to me he was free of guilt and shame. That someone would consider that as a good thing. What about morality?
Yeah, the results of his ordeal seemed pretty disruptive. Or I didn't watch all of. I haven't researched it deeply or watched all the show about it, about Wild Country. What was the place called? It was like I can't remember, but it was just I guess a part of Oregon State where his commune was
I don't know
formed.
either. But yeah, I just seen
Yeah,
pictures. I seen the pictures and I'm like, whoa. Okay.
yeah. This it can be a strange. There's this sort of I don't know. There's a lot of strains of spirituality, and how do you determine who's a guru and who's a egomaniac of some kind?
It's a very
And
thin line, yeah.
yeah, there's shamans and there's schizophrenics. And
Yeah.
is there truth in in what the shaman finds that overlaps with the truth that the schizophrenic finds? Maybe, but yeah, it's a tricky thing when language becomes used in the world of teaching spirituality or teaching, and so many of these things become cults, or so many become kind of sketchy communes, and
Yeah.
with a certain leader who has all the multiple wives, and why does that always have to occur?
We're getting too deep into this. We steered away from our point. But
You're right.
I have one shortcut to determine if your guru is real. And that's if they want to get rid of you. And not in a
Yeah, yeah. They just don't want you to keep asking. They don't want you to keep needing their answers.
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's one way to check.
yeah. I think that's a good one because that seems to be what a lot of the Zen stories are pointing at in a way that you can never quite say it, but it's like the seeker climbs a mountain to go find this mysterious enlightened figure who lives in seclusion and asks some question about the deep meaning of life. And
Yeah.
the answer is never some clear answer. It's always just disappointing in some way or
And so
confusing.
this is perfect because it ties back into the creativity we were talking about.
Yeah,
So Zen, the whole thing about Zen is that you're it. Don't try too much. You're it. And you have all these Zen students that come to the Zen masters. And the Zen masters, no, you're fine. You're good. But then the Zen students, but I'm broken. But I need to find enlightenment. I need to, I need to learn. Teach me, master. And the master, okay.
yeah,
And then the Zen master puts these students through this whole process
yeah,
of like hardcore discipline, meditation. He walks around with a stick and he like bangs them on the head to wake up, and all this kind of it's all this manufactured drama to wake up the students to the fact that they're this is it. There's no more
right.
to learn. And it goes back to the creativity part because we have it. We have creativity. But we're trying too hard to find it or to develop our own voice. And but just by the fact that we're just trying too hard, we block it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You know what? You know what? I think that actually helps me just hearing it that way right now because in this conversation it's just reminded me something's getting in the way of playing. And so then I thought, so I want to keep doing this podcast and I want to make these videos pretty soon where I'm carving this block of wood and speaking to the camera. and saying certain things of value, hopefully, to someone, and hopefully make it entertaining. But it is the pressure of there being an audience that can really distract, and it's the archer wanting to win,
Yes.
because I don't want to miss the target in front of people. So that's where it's like, even already just what we've recorded today, like I feel like I'll have to listen to this, and maybe you'll have to, for us to even decide if we upload it. But
Yeah, I know.
like, I think it's like pretty fun and maybe of value, but also maybe more just for us. So I don't know, but it's
Yeah, see, the thing is, if we leave it as it is, there's no pressure of releasing it.
right.
Then Napoleon Hill has a book called Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how we outwit the devil. we bypass our egos a little bit. But a better
yeah.
question is, why do we keep doing this to ourselves? You
Doing
know?
what? Doing what?
This whole being tense about how other people perceive us and how once there is stakes, we trip up. We get so tense about things. Like, why do we keep doing it to ourselves?
Why? Oh man.
I won't leave you hanging. I'll tell you a story. Maybe I won't tell you a story. I'll tell you how I'm dealing with my neuroses these days.
Yeah, please.
So there is always something. Like, there's always, the ego always finds a way to trip you up, as we discussed. But a good way to remind myself that all these worries they're silly. The way I remind myself is I tell myself, I'm the one doing it to myself. I'm the only person that keeps perpetuating these cycles of negative emotions. There's not, I'm like, where is it? Why do I feel this way? Because I choose to keep it in me. I choose to perpetuate the cycles. And it's funny, I went through my journals from 2 years ago. And the theme that I found I speak about the most is it's just like, I should overcome my fear and put myself out there. For 2 years, and I didn't realize this has been the major theme for 2 years. And I'm like, how did I not notice that for 2 years this has been the theme? And because, so I have it written here. It's like, hoping keeps you hoping. Hope keeps you hoping. Same way, if you think about fear, it keeps you thinking about fear. So if you focus on your fears, you just keep perpetuating the fears that you have. That's why, like, people who have anxiety disorders, they feel anxiety, then they fear the anxiety. They don't want to have the anxiety, which makes them more anxious. By focusing on the anxiety, they just perpetuate the anxiety. So now I keep telling myself, I keep doing this to myself. I can just decide to stop thinking about it and focus on the positive rather than the fears to break the cycle.
Yeah.
It's really difficult, especially when you're identified with the emotion. When you lose the distance with the emotion, it's really difficult to say to myself, I keep doing this to myself. But walking helps with that a lot.
Yeah.
Changing your physical state, that helps.
Yeah, that's good.
So it comes back to Robert Rodriguez, the filmmaker. He goes at the beginning of his book, Rebel Without a Crew. He goes, "Are you an aspiring filmmaker? Stop aspiring, because what does an aspiring filmmaker do? Aspires. It's the same principle."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, cool. I like it. Maybe we should sign off on this one, and then we can keep chatting for a few and see how we feel when we
Yeah,
stop recording.
yeah,
But Matt, this was a fun time, and whatever happens to this episode, then
yeah.
thanks for doing this with me. It was a fun experience.
My
This
pleasure. My pleasure.
episode on overcoming perfectionism.
You could say that, yeah.
Something like that.
We
All right.
listen back to this and we're like, oh my god.
Very likely, very possible. Okay. Thanks for listening, all of you millions of listeners out there. All right. Bye bye. So, bye bye. Hey, remember me? I am the intro guy. I recorded the intro. Now I'm the outro guy. I am Jesse James Carver, host of the Unblocked Creators Podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode. Hope you enjoyed Matt, Buffa, and I shooting the shit, whatever the heck that means. And I hope to see you in person if you are on this creator sort of journey, trying to find your way as an artist or a content creator or even an educator or business builder in general in this changing world and new technical media landscape with artificial intelligence making its big debut for humanity. So come to the convention. Go to thelivinginternet.com. Check out the lineup of incredible speakers that we have who will be there. And don't miss out. At least find out what you're missing out on, okay? Go to thelivinginternet.com. At least find out what you're missing out on if you don't come. And if you're really okay with missing out on being there in person, there will be live stream tickets available at some point soon, probably in the new year. But for now, find out what it would be like and why you should be at the in-person event, because there's going to be a room with hundreds of people, each sharing meals together and listening to headline speakers who have made millions of dollars or built huge audiences or otherwise are making a profound impact through their digital entrepreneurship. And that's all I'm going to say about that. For now, I'm not the best salesman in the world, okay? But I think you should be at the convention if you've made it this far. So go buy your ticket or join the free community with the link in the description. And join in the free quests that we're going to be going on for upskilling your social networking abilities, to upskill your media production abilities, whether you want to start a podcast, whether you want to share your music or your painting or your writing. There's going to be some very powerful alliances forming to help you produce the work that you care about producing and get eyes on it and maybe make some money. So, thanks again. Goodbye.